Today, today under interesting lighting, and you could say my lighting is technically improving. Maybe it's not. Maybe I don't really care. But anyway, today, under different lighting, I am going to be doing a video on a question I received in my Linus Torvalds video. Let's just have a look at it and we'll read it out. So, CFBDK, one of my best subscribers, although it doesn't technically say he's a subscriber or he or she is a subscriber, but I'm going to presume you're a subscriber, says, as usual, enjoyable content, thank you very much. On your next live stream, could you perhaps elaborate what your goals with the channel is? Just the first milestone, so we know when we can return to the back of class. When would you consider ball rolling to make it worth your time? Okay, so the gist of it is, what is the goal of the channel? And in the live stream, I didn't really answer this question, so I apologize, my bad. So I'm going to rectify, such an awkward word. I'm going to fix my mistake, and I'm going to answer the question in this video. And not just the first milestone, maybe the main direction, or not even direction, the main aim of what I'm doing is. And it's sort of inextricably linked with not just what I'm doing on the channel, but me using Linux in general. So first off, let's start off with this, the ThinkPad, okay? So this X201 ThinkPad is my testing one, and I have my my main machine, which is also an X201, okay? Laptops that came out about 15 years ago nearly now. I did a video on ThinkPad, why I use 15-year-old ThinkPads. So you know why I use the ThinkPad, okay? However, maybe I haven't made it clear, but I'm using this particular ThinkPad with Linux. This Linux installation of Arch, very minimal, as you know, a base installation with certain packages. And why am I doing that? So the reason I'm using that installation of Linux, Arch Linux, of a base installation, is future proofing, okay? So I might have talked about future proofing with Wayland and so forth. Everything I'm doing is future proofing. So why am I future proofing these laptops? What does that actually look like? Well, we're going to look at that in a second. I'm just going to explain the summary. I want these laptops to be running Linux as fast as possible, therefore as minimal as possible, as long as possible, right? With software that I can script, software that is extensible, tinkerable, configurable to my usage, which is mainly screenwriting. And in a way, I'm trying to explain this. It's kind of obvious, but I will just give you, let's just give you some examples of what I'm talking about, okay? So let's put it this way. My milestone is to have a minimal Linux installation with all the abilities of a desktop environment or a tiling window manager environment in a TTY. There we go. Have I sort of summarized it? I don't know. Maybe I'm not very good at summarizing things, or clearly not. So anyway, let's look at my example, my explanation. I hope this is starting to make sense. Okay, so traditionally in Linux desktop, people will install a desktop environment either through Ubuntu or another distribution, and it will usually be GNOME or KDE, and in the future Cosmic Desktop, and it will have its suite of packages, okay? So your usual web browser, all these kinds of things. So I've got here GNOME's website, okay, and this is their core apps for GNOME, okay? So I'm going to show you the usual way it's done, and the way I do it for me, but hopefully I'll explain why I'm not missing out on not using a desktop environment, and in fact not even missing out using X11 with a tiling window manager. So I hope this is starting to make sense. I hope so. Maybe I'm going to have to do a follow-up video and explain it better, but this is my attempt, okay? So we've got here apps for GNOME. So this is really the core apps that you would get, I guess, if you install the GNOME desktop on whatever you're using, so whether it's Arch or Ubuntu or whatever. Obviously Ubuntu will ship their own versions, their own packages as well. That they'll modify various things. You know, whatever distribution you're using, you'll probably be able to install GNOME or KDE. So let's have a look here. So these are the core applications. Nothing really dramatic, just your usual core applications. So we've got a calculator, calendar, camera, clocks, connections, terminal, contacts, disk usage analyzer, disks, document scanner, document viewer, files, fonts, blah blah blah. Let's look at some examples. So assume that I am in the TTY, okay? So I'm in the TTY, and how do I get the functionality that GNOME or KDE desktop provides through their packages in the TTY? Okay, let's just get into it. So, as you may well know, application I mentioned, I use something called TTYSH. It's just really a shell script, a bash script that automates everything I do on my desktop, but I use a TTY for the desktop. So the TTY, of course, is the Linux console before you load any graphical environment. I effectively do this without loading X11. Some things I do, this is where it gets a bit messy, but I'll do my best to explain what I'm doing. So calculator, okay? So calculator in GNOME is going to be a graphical environment. So I've got I don't know what I put it under. I think it's this. Okay, so yeah. So I've got a case statement that takes in CA as an input, and it loads. It loads BC. Okay, so BC is the bash calculator, I think it is, or I don't know, and it's just a command line calculator. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I use the terminal in the TTY, and if I need to use the calculator, I use BC with -L, which gives you some extra, it's a flag or whatever, to give you something else. Okay, calculator sorted, so I'm not missing a graphical calculator. Calendar, well, I use a mix of things. So I use, let's see, well, let's look at the cal command, okay? I'd use, okay, schedule. Okay, let's do this. Let's go into this. So I use a case statement again to run a schedule, okay? So here we go. So hope you're following this. I know this is a lot to take in if you're trying to follow what's going on. You don't know shell, bash, programming, whatever. So I've got here a function. So the case statement loads a function, okay, called calendar schedule. Okay. Right, so I've got calendar schedule here, and so it runs all these different things, okay? So it runs the date command, which gives me the date. So I know what date it is, right? And it runs it with these these arguments or whatever, okay? And it gives me an option to edit. So let's see. I'm just trying to abbreviate this thing. So basically, it's running the calendar data. So I've got here in Vim, I've got a calendar text file, and I can edit it. It just brings up my schedule, so I can input things like notes, like schedules. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm not explaining myself without showing, but this is going to be a long video, even longer than it should be. So there we go. I don't need a calendar. I've got a calendar. I use the cal command. I use different pre-prepared text files that bring up my grep, my latest date in the calendar. I hope that makes sense. If you know grep, obviously I hope this makes sense. I'm probably rambling on here as usual. Okay, so I don't need the calendar. Okay, I'm not going to go into that anymore because it's just too much for one video. Camera. Okay, so again with camera, now I can record my screen in the TTY using the frame buffer. I know, crazy, right? So if I can find where it is, it's on here somewhere. I think it's just under rec. So here we go. I can record the X, but I can record the TTY. Okay, so if I do RE, hopefully I'll get to this. Okay, so using FFmpeg, I can record the frame buffer FBdev at this frame rate, and then there we go, TTY record, and that will record your TTY. So in theory, I can take a screenshot as well. So here you go, FBgrab. FBgrab is a program, and I can screenshot TTY 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so there we go. I do not need camera. Now, obviously, that doesn't necessarily specifically say about the inbuilt camera or an attached camera, but it's really the same thing. I just use FFmpeg. If I need to grab the device, which is the camera device, I can do absolutely the same thing. I do not need a camera graphical environment. Now, characters, I don't care about emojis and all this stuff, so that doesn't matter to me. I'm in the TTY. Clocks, I've kind of explained clocks, so I can just use the date command, date in the shell if I need to see the clock, whatever. I guess you've got like other countries, but I could just, again, I could script that out. It's no problem. Connections, again, I just use, so if I do net, I think. So NM2E, okay? So yes, it's a terminal user interface, which I can load in the TTY. So it uses ncurses or whatever it is called. So again, it's a kind of graphical, but again, I can use NMCLI, which I think I've got on some of this stuff here. I've got NMCLI on a case statement. So I don't need their whatever graphical front end to network manager. So I've got network manager, but I use it in the 2E sense. Okay, console. Again, I'm in the Linux console. I don't need to load a console. Okay, contacts. The same kind of thing, just have a Vim, a text file with your contacts, and I don't know, script it out. So if you need to grab it and put it in, I don't know, MUT, the email client. So that again covers, like I use MUT, which I can use in the terminal. I can script it out, all these kinds of things. Fantastic. Disk usage analyzer. So who needs a disk usage analyzer, right? I've got, what is it, DF? -H, yeah. So with FR as an input in a case statement, it will just run df, which is disk free -H, -H. Okay, so it'll tell you you're disk free. I don't know. Do you need anything else? So then of course it goes into disks. Now I don't literally have a disk utility, but a disk utility is just fdisk, right? So let me show you what I do with backups. So if I do BAC, hopefully this is going to be, oh no, let's go down to, okay, so backups here, right? So I've got all these different scripted utilities I've made. So let's, if I go DI, okay, and I go disk format, this might be a bit of a mess, disk format. Okay, so I've got all these different functions that are doing all these checks, but let's get down to it. I don't know why I just don't do fdisk. Okay, so here we go. I've got fdisk. So this is to format a USB device, encrypt it, and then start doing time shift backups, and I've got another one for my home directory. And so this will take in all these different inputs you can see here, crypt setup, there we go, mkfs ext4. So I can script all this stuff out. I don't really need the graphical environment. There's one exception. When you run timeshift for the first time, timeshift creates creates snapshots of your system like a backup. Okay, you do need to run that in timeshift GTK. Annoying, but after that you don't need to. So there are exceptions, but I'm going to say I've got that one covered. Okay, I certainly don't need GNOME. Document scanner, I'm sure I could sort something out. I don't need to scan documents, but whatever. Document viewer, I can read PDFs, I can read PNGs, or that's basically what document viewer is, right? It's PDFs. Okay, it looks like events or whatever. So if I need PDFs, I can I don't know, I've got various things here. I don't even know. Let's go back to where is it? Where is it? I don't even know where it is. I've got all these different things in here. But basically, I can read PDFs with some kind of program. Can I find it? Don't know why I can't find it. Oh, here we go. Search images and PDFs. Okay. So if I do PDF, I think that'll work. The thing is, I've got all these different functions. So annoying actually to find stuff. FCF, PDF, whatever. Okay. So here you go. I've got MU PDF for the graphical environment. I don't even. Oh yeah, JFB view, so I can read PDFs in the TTY. Fantastic. Use Vim keys, everything. I love it. Okay, so files, bash. Okay, just I know there's like LF for the LF. Is it in the? I don't even use that. I just use bash, and no problem with that. For me, it's fine. But you don't even need this stuff. Fonts. Set font, you can set it persistently. I've got it all scripted out. Here we go. So you can set in the console fonts, or in the graphical environment. But again, I can just set console fonts. I've got it rigged to a FCF, whatever. Do you need me to explain all this? I don't know. Image viewer, we've basically covered that. The same thing as the PDF. I can read images with MPV or whatever. Logs, system logs are system logs, so I can just look for system logs. Maps, well, here's the exception. Of course, I'm going to have to go into a web browser. And here's where it starts to bring up the problem with web browsers. If I'm using a web browser, I can really only use it in a graphical environment, with exceptions. So if we're talking about milestones, a milestone I would like, and this is not necessarily me doing it because I'm not really a developer, if I could have a true web browser like Firefox running, I don't know, headless in a frame buffer in the TTY, that would be a nice milestone. Does that really count? I don't know. But technically, yes, I can use links. I can use, Browse in the TTY. But that's where, unfortunately, I'm not quite there yet. Music, I just use CMOS. You can use MPD. All can be used in the thing. Oh, the light's going now. The light is going. Settings. Well, settings can be whatever you want it to be. Okay. I can, what is it? Settings are like your thing. I don't know. Your terminal. If you're in a Linux console. Again, I don't really need to explain that. I can cover all my settings I need. Software, Pacman. I can use Pacman in the TTY. System monitor, HTOP. I can do that. Text editor, Vim. I can do that. Videos, MPV. Again, frame buffer. I can do that. Or FF Play. Weather. I can use the terminal WTTR.sh or whatever it's called. Again, I can use that in the terminal. I've got it. And then, of course, we'll come back to the biggest problem: the web browser. So I hope that kind of explains my milestones. So my milestone, if you like, on the channel is to demonstrate all of this functionality in GNOME or KDE or whatever, or whatever distribution packages, all this stuff and their versions or variations, to demonstrate this in the TTY, in the Linux console. Okay, that's really my aim. what I would like to get to, my ultimate aim is, it's probably never going to happen, a full web browser in, I don't know, and you know, of course this includes JavaScript running headless, but in like a frame buffer. I don't know how we'll get there. Maybe somebody will be able to do that. I don't know. And then there's circle apps. This is like, I don't even know, random stuff. Again, I mean, all these things that I've covered here, the core apps are, I've covered the core, but I've got so much other stuff I can do in the TTY that isn't covered here, and we can look into that. I hope that answers your question. I do feel I don't necessarily explain myself sometimes, or I go on these rants, but there's quite a lot to cover here. I hope I've summarised it as best I can. I hope that answers your question, CFBDK. There we go. That was 20 or so minutes. I don't want to go on anymore. I hope that makes sense. So yeah, you can return to the back of the class now. You can, of course, learn whatever you need to learn from me, whether you're learning anything or not, but there we go. I don't know. So I think that covers it for now. There we go. Okay. So you know what to do with the fake YouTube, you know, all the like and the subscribing and the commenting. And let's just leave it there.